when I was approached to make a few remarks in front of you people, I thought, what am I going to come up with that can be really innovative, different, a real treat for you? And I thought, rather than me telling you about our work, which I suspect most of you are probably sick and tired of hearing me telling you about, I'm going to get my boss to tell you about it. And so I took the liberty to asking our friend, our premier, to come in front of you and give you a few thoughts about what we have collectively done in British Columbia to try to address the problem of HIV and AIDS, so far quite successfully. It doesn't really matter what us as researchers are able to accomplish if we don't have the political support and leadership to transform that into reality. Our work is in vain. And for me, it really has been extremely gratifying to see that the fruits of our research can become a reality thanks to the support that we have been able to gather from our premier. To give you a sense of how much importance she places on this work, as you know, British Columbia is almost imminently going into an election cycle, and yet Christy Clark, our premier, has agreed to distract herself from her very busy agenda to come and say a few words for you. Please welcome the Premier of British Columbia, Christy Clark.
Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Julio. I know that about half of you are from British Columbia, and I do want to say to all of you, everyone from across the country, but in particular, all of the researchers and academics who work in British Columbia, how profoundly gratifying it is for all of us to know that you've chosen to work in our province, and how proud we are of the work that you do and the contribution that you make to our society and making our province better, and the knowledge that the work that you do here is work that is going to benefit hundreds of millions of people all around the world. So may I just start with a big thank you on behalf of all of the people of British Columbia. You don't get to see them as often as I do, and I think if they knew what you were doing, they would get a chance to say thank you. You know, I see them a lot. I don't often hear thank you for the work that I'm doing, which is fair. But I think if they knew the work that you were doing, they would certainly take a chance to say thank you. So I do want to start by offering a thank you on behalf of everyone in this province. We have worked hard in British Columbia, all of you, and the government has done its best to try and support the work, in particular, the work that Dr. Montana has done. He has proven in the last 5 years what we can do when government is prepared to take ideas and research, knowledge, data, and execute on it and turn it into action. Not that we execute on it, but that we provide the support that it can be done. And that's the marriage that needs to happen between the people with the ideas and the plans, and then the people at the political level who have the money. To bring those two things together so that we can bring those ideas to life and solve real-world problems and save lives for people all across the province and around the world. That's one of the most important missing ingredients, I think, often in the work that you do. So we've worked hard with Dr. Montana. It was my predecessor, Gordon Campbell, who he went to see 5 years ago, and convinced him on the basis of the data, with his own passion and his incredible rigor that he brings to everything he does, that the government needed to support the work that he was doing, he and his team. And he has proven that that investment is more than worth it. HIV infections in the 1990s here were over 900. Now, it's 248. We are the only place in North America, I think the world, that is seeing a consistent decline at such a rate. And we are very, very proud, Julio, of the work that you and your team have done. So we've begun with that. He's begun with that. And he and I have agreed that the next frontier is to take the work that he's done and the team have done and British Columbian researchers have done with HIV/AIDS and start to migrate that to other diseases that behave in similar ways in the population. So what about hepatitis? What about other sexually transmissible diseases? What about going after some of those other diseases that behave the same way and using the same model and proving that it can work in reducing infection rates in populations in other diseases? That is the next frontier for us. And we are not going to stop here. 1981 was a great year for British Columbia because that was the year that Julio Montaner came to British Columbia and his wife wouldn't let him leave. And because we don't want him to go anywhere, we want to continue to support him because you guys are doing great work. You men and women here today are all doing great work. And we have so much more to do, not just for our province and our country, but for the world. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for all that you're doing with all the passion that you bring to it every day. Yours isn't always the glory, although when you see the list of awards that you got, Julio, there seems to be some glory in it, I think. But yours is not, you do not do it for the glory. You do it because you care deeply about these issues. And all of us want to leave our lives, hopefully after a long one, knowing that we've made a difference. And I'm willing to bet that every single one of you is going to leave your life knowing with absolute certainty that you've made a tremendous difference. That's the way to live a life. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Premier. We really appreciate your support, and we can only wish that you could be an example, not only for the rest of the premiers across the country, but also for our federal government, who, as Liliana highlighted in her remarks, is long overdue to generate a new, vibrant, and revised national strategy. This is a problem that affects us all. We know what needs to be done. I'm not here to describe it for you. You will have enough time to deliberate about it in the next few days here at CAHR. But if we don't implement the results of our research aggressively and effectively and throughout the country, lowering the threshold for people to be able to access services and fighting against stigma and discrimination, which are so persistent and prevalent in our society, we're not going to overcome this problem. We have laws in this country supported by the federal government that represent a clear hindrance for us to implement the programs that we need to implement, whether it's harm reduction programs, prostitution laws, or the criminalization of sexual contact in people with HIV. This is unacceptable. If we don't revise our approach federally, we won't be able to tackle this epidemic successfully. BC cannot do it alone. And there is a pending assignment for the federal government when it comes to the First Nations epidemic. First Nations are 5 to 7 times overrepresented when it comes to HIV, and this is no way to treat our friends and brothers in the First Nations community. So we need a renewed strategy. We need it urgently. And I only hope that the federal government will take the leadership that Christy Clark in British Columbia has demonstrated and deliver on what, at the end of the day, is a very realistic goal of an HIV and AIDS-free epidemic. Thank you very much.